We're joined in studio by the two reporters that covered this story. We've got Ryan Mills from the Daily News and Melanie Payne from the News Press. And Mel, how did you jump into the investigation then? What did you use as your criteria and your search?
Well, we developed the criteria really after we started doing the research on it. We looked at what people had for violations, what their overall quality score was from the federal government. And we chose that one because it had more variables than the state STAR system. It looks at the staffing, the things called quality measures, how many people leave the home, don't lose weight, don't get bed sores, the number of falls, that sort of thing. And then we decided that we were going to set a certain number, and we looked at people who had over 18 quarters, 1 or 2 stars on the 5-star scale. And so there happened to be quite a few of them. And then we also then further pared the list down by those that had more than 100 violations.
And what are some of these violations? Because we know that they're not all created equally. You can have some things that are fairly minor, and then people that died as a result.
Yeah, violations could be something really small, or not terribly small, but things like people had long fingernails, and the
so more neglect-based,
right? More neglect-based.
Some of it's just reporting too.
Right.
Like they didn't maintain their reports correctly, so it wasn't necessarily a violation
paperwork.
of paperwork. Exactly.
Yeah.
So what are some of the egregious things that you found, Ryan?
I mean, we found all sorts of things. We found people. The lead anecdote in our story is a man who, after just barely over a week of being in a home in the Miami area, walked out and drowned in a lake. We found people who were beat to death by their roommates. We found a nursing home in Tallahassee that patients went for weeks and weeks without getting regular blood sugar testing, diabetic patients that weren't getting blood sugar testing, lots of people who were getting pressure ulcers, even maggots and pressure ulcers. What else, Mel? What else?
Flies.
Flies,
yeah. I mean, the thing, those kind of just terrible things that really affect people's health and their quality of life. And then what would happen a lot of times is it wouldn't be cited in the inspection report that this person ends up dying. They get sepsis, which is a blood infection, and it ends up in a lawsuit. And that's another thing that we looked at, was over 200 lawsuits alleging that the people were neglected, and many of them died.
So if you all had to really search out and find which of these cases maybe resulted in death, that must make it even harder for consumers to find out this information.
A bad thing can happen at a nursing home. These people are very sick. It's very difficult. A lot of them are nonverbal. So a nursing home can have a one-off.
Sure.
But what you want to look at are things like, how long has the director of nursing been there? What's their performance over a long period, which was one of our criteria. The average violations are something around 6 or 7, I think, per survey. And if you get people who are nursing homes who are having 24, 25 violations a year, there's probably an issue there. So as far as consumers, it really is a big homework issue, which is one of the reasons I would say that the government really needs to do something to improve them all, because most people just cannot do the research necessary.
It's a very daunting task.
And I think one of the things we found was that both the state and the federal governments have these rating systems. They give you a 1 star to 5 stars, 5 stars being the best, 1 star being the worst. And that looks like a really good place to start, and it is a good place to start. But one of the things that you'll find is that homes can change drastically. A home that was a 4-star or a 5-star, 1 quarter, can drop to a 1 or 2 star. So you aren't necessarily, when you're looking at and seeing what the current rating is, you're not getting.
May not be indicative.
You're not getting. We looked at basically 5 years of history, and you're not getting that. And the other thing that's going on is that. The state used to have 5 years of inspections on its website, where you could go through and read the inspection reports that these inspectors generated. After Irma, because of redaction issues, the state pulled them off of their website, and now they're referring them to the federal website, which only has 3 years of inspection reports. So there's just less information out there right now. The state says that they're going to fix that. The state says that is a temporary thing, but right now, if you're looking to put your loved one in a nursing home, you know, you only have the 3 years.
I noticed that someone you interviewed from the Healthcare Association said that there's a lot of them that do it right, and they kind of focus on that. But you found that it's not these one occurrences that you really focused on. You looked at homes that consistently had a lot of violations, and a number of them had multiple deaths over the years, correct?
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we didn't really think it was fair to focus just on one bad incident. And I know that that's a lot of times what people see. You know, something happens and it brings a bad.
Accidents can happen,
yeah.
But it's not necessarily.
We found over, I think it's 54 homes that had consistently 1 and 2 rate, you know, low scores of 1s and 2s, and had at least 100 violations. We could have added, you know, there's, you know, I think dozens more that would have met one of those 2 criteria, but not both. So we focus on just those 54, and that's not the end all be all of you know, bad performing nursing homes either. So I mean, there's plenty of homes out there that have got problems, and they're everywhere in the state. I mean, they're from, you know, we're in Naples right now, but there's, you know, bad homes in the Panhandle, there's bad homes on the East Coast, there's bad homes on the Northeast, you know, I mean, everywhere in the state.
Sure. I think the oversight presents part of the problem. Can you tell me what you found out is done to these homes involving violations and things like that? How do they try to enforce some accountability?
Well, they're rarely closed down. We do know that. And we can, if you want, we can talk a little bit about why that is.
Yeah, you said there's good reason for that.
Yeah, there really is. You don't, because this is often the home for a person, and they move in there thinking this is where I'm going to live till I die. It's my home. And they'll be in there 15, 17, 20 years even. So disrupting a resident, many of them are very ill, and it's hard to move them, or it's a money issue that not everybody can take them, they're on Medicaid. So what you want to do is kind of change who is in the home, you know, look at stabilizing some of the things. And the state feels that that's their goal, is to bring them into compliance. We just found that it just doesn't work that well often.
Because they have small fines relatively, don't they, if they are trying to use finances to kind of encourage compliance?
The average state fine is about $4,500. And you know, these homes are bringing in multi-million dollars. Most of them are bringing in millions of dollars every year in Medicare and Medicaid. So, you know, you're talking about a tiny, tiny sum for these multi-million-dollar facilities. So that's part of the problem.
So that in itself is not going to encourage them to make wholesale sweeping changes. Then it has not shown that way historically.
Yeah, the argument we get from the Agency for Healthcare Administration is that, you know, one of the tactics that they use more often is denying license renewals. And they do that from time to time, but we do find that most of those cases, those homes don't, like Mel said, they don't close down eventually. They come to some agreement, they may have to go on a corrective plan, but they ultimately stay open. And that's kind of what we're focusing on, is that these homes that have long histories of poor performance are still staying open. And you know, that's just kind of what we're seeing, is that a lot of these homes do stay open. Even if they're on a corrective plan, they don't necessarily get better. In most cases, we found that they didn't get better.
Well, now that you've kind of done all the legwork and laid it out on a silver platter, what do officials think? Did they find this disturbing at all?
I don't know.
I mean, officials being the governor has said that, you know, it's his. He believes that the federal, you know, that he believes his state agency is doing an effective job of regulating homes. And ACA says that they believe that they get compliance from homes when they come in and find violations and find deficiencies. You know, but again, what we're seeing is that there are plenty of homes out there that have been bad homes for years and years and years, and they're still open right now. And
so no real acknowledgement of we do need to do something more for the people in those homes?
Well, I think that maybe after the article runs and people start to put pressure on their legislators to maybe institute some things that bring these homes better into compliance or improve conditions for people, and people see how really serious it is. I mean, this is a state with a lot of older people and people who are baby boomers who have to look for somewhere for their parents. and people who have major surgeries and need rehabilitation.
It's a very vulnerable population.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give the impression that there's nobody out there that is critical of the nursing homes. There are plenty of people that are critical of nursing homes. We've talked with state senators and state lawmakers who, especially after the Irma incident, have really kind of jumped on the bandwagon of we need to fix this, we need to make improvements. And there's people who've long been involved in the nursing home industry in Florida who are calling for reform, and they've been calling for reform for years. So that's still out there. But you talk to AHCA, you talk to the governor, and they feel like they are performing pretty well.
Well, I think what you all have done by bringing this out in the paper is a first step in kind of showcasing the problems, and we'll see what happens there. You can read this full report at naplesnews.com and news-press.com.